Chapter 13, Supererogatory Prayers. Tahajjud, WITR and TARＡWÍH. Well, there's also like voluntary prayers in the morning, prayers for entering the masjid. There's some additional options we have here. Surah 17, ayat 79 says, "And during a part of the night, forsake sleep by prayer. Beyond what is incumbent on thee, maybe thy Lord will raise thee to a position of great glory." 73:6 after 1779 is, "The rising by night is the firmest way to tread and the best corrective of speech." Surah 73, ayat 20, "Surely thy Lord knows that thou passest in prayer nearly 2/3 of the night, and sometimes half of it, and sometimes 1/3 of it, and also part of those who are with thee." Tahajjud from Hajjada, meaning he remained wakeful in the night, is the prayer which is offered during the latter part of the night before daybreak, is a supererogatory prayer. Special stress is laid on it in the Holy Quran. WITR, literally an odd number, originally part of the Tahajjud prayer, is a supererogatory prayer of 3 rak'ah, generally said after the Esh prayer, the desk prayer. Well, it can be 5, it can be 7, it can be 9, it can be 11, it can be 13, and some narrations. Tarawih, plural of tarawih, meaning rest, is a supererogatory prayer of 8 or 20 rak'ah said during the month of Ramadan immediately after the Isha prayer. The Tahajjud prayer is said after one has enjoyed sleep during the latter part of the night. This prayer consists of 11 rak'ah, and it may be shortened to 9 or 7 or even less, there being a break after every 2 rak'ah. As all people could not afford to get up in the latter part of the night, 3 rak'ah of WITR were added to the Isha prayer, being the final act of devotion before going to sleep. The last rak'ah of WITR was characterized by a special prayer offered before or after ruku and called the qanut. The Tarawih prayer really takes the place of Tahajjud in the case of those who could not get up for Tahajjud in the month of Ramadan. Its present form was introduced in the time of Umar. Well, the Prophet did it, and he didn't want people to think it was required, so he went off on his own, and some people would try to follow him behind the wall, and but the point was it wasn't required. But nowadays, people try to feel like it's required. And when it comes to Sunnah or Hadith, well, the Sunnah and Hadith of Umar and Abu Bakr and those after Muhammad died, and those even during the lifetime of Muhammad, isn't the same thing. So they may be acceptable examples if you can see that they're supported, but certainly they don't change the obligations of such. Abu Hurairah reported, "The Messenger of Allah, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, said, Our Lord, blessed and exalted is he, descends every night to the nearest heaven when the latter 1/3 of the night remains, and says, Is there anyone who calls upon me so that I may accept of him who asks of me, so that I may grant him who seeks forgiveness of me, so that I may forgive him?" Aisha reported, the Messenger of Allah, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, used to say 11 rak'ah of prayer. This was his prayer, meant at night, and he used to remain in sajda so long before he raised his head that one of you could recite 50 verses. And he said 2 rak'ah before the morning prayer, then he lay down on his right side until the mu'adhin came to him for the congregational prayer. Masruq said, I asked Aisha about the prayer of the Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, at night. She said sometimes 7 rak'ah, sometimes 9, and sometimes 11, besides the 2 sunnah rak'ah of the Fajr. Ibn Umar said a man asked the Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, while he was on the pulpit, What dost thou say about the night prayer? He said, 2 rak'ah at a time, and when one of you knows that the dawn is near, he should add 1 rak'ah, and this will make his prayer WITR. Ibn Umar reported the Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, said, Let the WITR be your last prayer at night. Ibn Hurairah said, The Messenger of Allah, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, commanded me to say the WITR before going to sleep. Al-Hasan ibn Ali said, The Messenger of Allah, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, taught me sentences to be repeated in the qanut in winter. O Allah, guide me among those whom thou hast guided, and preserve me among those whom thou hast preserved, and befriend me among those whom thou hast befriended, and bless me in whom thou hast granted, and save me from the evil of what thou hast ordered, for thou dost order, and no order overrides thy order. Surely he is not disgraced, whom thou befriendest. Blessed art thou, our Lord, and highly exalted. Well, one of the things that we need to remember that the translation, God, it never says in Arabic that God does anything evil. The humans and their problem of evil, like everything negative or maybe more specific, is evil, and it's not quite the same thing. Evil is what's wrong. It's not necessarily what's unpleasant or whatever. Abdullah Rahman said, I went out with Umar ibn al-Khattab to the mosque on a certain night in Ramadan, and the people had formed themselves into different groups, one man saying prayer alone, another saying prayers with a number of people following his prayer. So Umar said, I think if I gathered them together behind one reciter, it would be much better. Then he made his decision and gathered them together behind Ubay ibn Ka'ab, and I went out with him on another night, and the people were following the prayer of their reciter. Umar said, this innovation is very good, and the part of the night in which they sleep is better than that in which they stand saying prayers. He meant the latter part of the night, and the people stood praying in the first part. So it's generally better to, stay up a little, but then go to sleep, and it's better to be praying in the later part of the night than the middle of the from dusk to dawn portion.